Lost Time by Miss Squeakers. Chapter 13. Best Laid Plans. Twilight couldn't feel her body as she walked towards her princess. Everything felt so surreal, like it was a vivid dream she hadn't yet to wake up from. Step by step, she inched herself closer as her emotions began to rise, until finally they spilled over. Twilight rushed over to the unicorn, shutting her eyes and squeezing out a flood of tears. She threw her forelegs around Celestia, rubbing her face in her chest as she sobbed, unintelligibly muttering words of sorrow and pain. "Princess!" Twilight sobbed. "It's just Celestia now," Celestia calmly corrected, lovingly stroking her hoof through Twilight's mane. "What is this? Where are you? What's going on?" Twilight screamed, as she continued to cry her frustration as her tears left her eyes. However, they started to flow into the sky, as if the laws of physics followed their own rules here. She didn't pay much attention to it, however. Celestia let out a heavy sigh as she contemplated where to begin. After several tense moments of holding her student and subsequently hushing away her pain, she pushed Twilight away gently until she was unable to look her in the eyes. "Twilight, please calm down," Celestia cooed, like a mother calming her child. "We don't have much time." Twilight looked up at her mentor, fruitlessly wiping at the relentless stream of tears. She tried her best to be quiet in her crying until Celestia could talk. Celestia looked around at the world in its blue tint. "This is the true nature of the magical state," she began. "While it gives you access to an untold amount of power, it is also a link to every element of magic that came before you." Around the pair, faces of dozens of unicorns appeared, watching the two silently from a distance. I I don't understand." Twilight began pacing, watching the peaceful faces of the unicorns around them. "Were you hiding here this whole time?" "No, Twilight. I've been here, but I'm not hiding. This is something like an afterlife. I've been here for about 14 years now, but it only feels like a few days. It's more like an extended sleep only I can wake up from when I'm needed. I cannot leave, but I can still communicate with you and Luna throughout the magical state." It was all so much to take in. Twilight suddenly remembered her sister she had just lost. At that point, nothing else really mattered to her anymore. "What about my sister? Can I save her?" "I never meant for things to go like this," Celestia sighed. Twilight gave her an accusing stare. "How dare you? What do you mean for things to go? How much were you in control of?" "Nothing!" Celestia retorted, regaining her composure. "Maybe I should begin from the beginning. When I was born, I was given a gift. This gift let me see the future. Many futures. Nearly every future. It was a heavy burden that I had to endure. But it never went away. But after thousands of years, I learned to become accustomed to it." Celestia took a moment to collect her thoughts. "I was given a prophecy once. After many centuries of predictions, I saw someone who would fit that prophecy. I saw you. I saw your power. I saw you become the element of magic. But for almost 1,000 years thereafter, I never saw you become what you needed to be, not until I created this plan." She looked down to Nova before shedding a tear. "I did set the wheels in motion for everything that had happened, but I never predicted to see what exists." Twilight looked down to Nova, first with sadness and anger. "I'll save her! I have to!" Twilight stated. "You can't." "I have to control the elements now," Twilight scoffed. "I'll just go right back to the past before she dies and protect her." "Twilight, she will die again in a different way." Celestia let out another heavy sigh as she considered how to explain the concept. "Nova came to be in this world because you disappeared. When your parents heard word of your disappearance and presumed death, they grieved as they expected. However, I never predicted in their grief they would choose to have another foal. But I guess in order to protect her, they never told her the truth about you. They didn't want her to get mixed up in magic." Twilight looked down to the picture she still held. It was a family photo of her parents in shining armor. But in the spot where Twilight should have been, Nova was standing. A single tear dripped down to her photo. "I don't understand. Why can't I save her?" Question for the reader. How did Nova not realize this? Twilight's parents had to have had plenty of pictures of her as a little baby foal all around the place. They had to have evidence. I mean, what? Did during the 9 months that Nova was on the way, did they make sure to destroy every single record? I sincerely doubt that Shining Armor wouldn't start talking about Twilight at least once or twice. What, did he just decide, nope, she's gone, I'm not going to remember her, not going to talk about her, nope! How did Tova not know? I feel like this should have been explained. Because, Twilight, in a world where you exist, she can't. Celestia explained. Her birth was the result of your death, and if you weren't death, then she becomes an anomaly, a mistake. That's the trouble with time travel. In all honesty, the only way to save her from her fate is to ensure that she's never born by returning to your time to set things right. I know it's harsh, but there's nothing else you can do. There was only one future I planned for you, she continued. You were supposed to reunite your friends and use their friendship to learn to control your element so you can come back to your time. Nothing more. In all honesty, I never knew you could control all the elements yourself without becoming an alicorn first. Twilight looked at Celestia in confusion. What do you mean by first? Celestia raised her head with pride in her student. Twilight, your whole life I've been preparing you to be my replacement. It is your destiny as the element of magic, just as it was mine and Luna's 4,000 years ago. But Luna and I, we weren't given a choice like I'm going to give you. Your future may be directed this way, but at least give you the decency of truth and a choice. You didn't think I would have accepted the responsibility of being a princess? Twilight scoffed. Of course I would have accepted the responsibility. If it's my responsibility, then I must. Twilight, there's a price you must pay in order to become an alicorn. One that you would not accept had I not sent you here to show you a world without the sun. Celestia waited for the inevitable response to her choice of words. Wait, you sent me here? Twilight barked. But even if you wanted it to happen, it was an accident. I lost control. Last, while it was an accident for you, it was my actions that caused you to lose your focus. In a carefully calculated accident, I performed a sonic rain boom that would break your concentration long enough for you to lose control, Celestia revealed. What? What? Uh, babe? Queenie, Rainbow Dash here. You can't make a sonic rain boom. I can do the sonic rain boom. You know, it's kind of part of my thing. It's who I am. You can make a sonic boom. But, what? Nobody noticed you flying around? Twilight paced around, contemplating the implications. Celestia had sacrificed the world on a gamble. She would end up here at this time. That everything would end up the way it did, and the clues she left would last until then. There were too many variables, and Twilight was having difficulty trusting Celestia and relying on luck. But Twilight finally stopped pacing, feeling the anger boil up inside her as she faced the unicorn. You gambled with my life? She shouted. With the lives of every pony in the world? Twilight, please understand. I've had 4,000 years to plan this out. I never took this responsibility lightly. Celestia took another glance at Nova's lifeless body in the snow. But it was impossible for me to predict everything. Not every future is set in stone. Every action that any pony makes could alter the course, and I could only influence so much. But it was still a gamble! Twilight sighed as she remembered the faces of all her friends, the pain and struggles they all went through. How can you say you love all your subjects? Don't finish that thought! Celestia begged with tears in her eyes. Please, Twilight, please trust me, Celestia pleaded. This was not a ruler commanding obedience, but a friend begging for help. Regardless of anything I could have done, I was going to die. For reasons I cannot explain, the sun itself feeds off my energy, and if I die without passing my power on to another, it dies with me. Celestia rested her hoof on Twilight's shoulder as she looked deep in her eyes. The real gamble would have been to let you decide without knowing everything. My predictions always showed that you would have declined if not for this. And if you had lived your life and died, there would be no fixing this. The line of the element of magic would end with you. Twilight sighed as he saw the logic in the statement. Except for the fact that she's Twilight, and if Celestia said anything about the death of the sun, Twilight would step in because she's a hero, and that is what she does best. What are the consequences for becoming an alicorn? She asked. Celestia shuffled her hooves in the snow, even though she left no marks upon the soft powder. Well, you have to die. What? Twilight gasped. Is that what you're thinking? Celestia immediately responded, waving her hose frantically in the air. You have to be reborn from your ashes, so to speak. You will still be you, but you'll emerge as an alicorn. Unfortunately, you won't remember your life before your transformation. But what about all my friends? What about my life? Celestia cleared a hole in the clouds, revealing the stars. She stared at the constellations she asked Luna to make her a long time ago. The 5 stars of her attention began to twinkle slightly. Celestia felt a pressure in her chest. You should not be concerned about forgetting them. They will be around you for the remainder of their lives. Such is the connection you share with the elements. No, Twilight, the hardest part about becoming nearly immortal is learning to accept the mortality of everybody around you while not forsaking friendship. I would have accepted those consequences, Twilight answered, really only trying to convince herself. No, she would have. And you must live 4,000 years ruling a country through every hardship without faltering as a beacon of hope amongst your subjects, as you wait for the elements to complete their 4,000-year cycle. Celestia took notice of her student's obvious struggle with accepting everything she had been told. I could have... Twilight, I know I should have told you, but you were always the one to pride yourself on proof and observation. Your stubbornness, endless curiosity was my greatest battle in discerning the continuation of our line. I had to let you see for yourself if you were to ever accept my prophecy. Twilight held her head low in defeat. She knew she was selfish, but she could never see herself in a world without her friends. In truth, she had thought about it often, but she hoped she would be the first to go out with all of her friends when the time came. She was literally mortified at the thought of grieving, as she hated herself for selflessly thinking that way. However, something Celestia had said caught Twilight's attention. Celestia, she muttered, if the elements follow the 4-year thousand cycle, then shouldn't the elements of chaos also appear? And on some same note, since Luna's still 1,000 years left, what does that mean for her when they do? I'm glad you asked that, Twilight. Yeah, I've been wondering about these whole elements of chaos thing myself. You're lucky that Luna was there to be helping her out in your 1,000 early years, should you accept my request. You see, her elements follow a different 5,000-year cycle, indifferent of her relatively short lifespan. Together, we agreed that Luna would have to hibernate for 1,000 years in order to live long enough to see her successor appear. In order to do that, we had to find her a vessel, one that could live for the entirety of the millennium. Unfortunately, the only other creature like that was Nightmare. Celestia saw Twilight an image of a floating creature made of entirely black magic. The creature skipped across the minds of ponies, possessing them to do dastardly acts before leaving them broken, but oblivious to the suffering they caused as it floated on to its next victim. It was pure evil, but at the same time laughably weak. The only reason it was able to survive so long under our constant hunting was because it was deviously cunning. One thing that it desired most of all was our power, but we used that to our advantage. Celestia saw Twilight visit Princess Luna, suddenly arguing with the creature as it swarmed around her, trying to get into her head. One moment, it seemed like its words had struck a sour note with the princess. She dropped her head in sadness, and by extent, her guard. One quick motion, the mass flew at Luna, entering her head through her eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, leaving the alicorn goddess writhing in pain on the ground. Clasping her hose against her head, what came next was horrifying to say the least. So horrifying, Celestia turned away, placed her hose over her ears, despite becoming completely silent, as the memories were too much to bear. Luna's eyes became jet black as she squirmed on the ground, hanging her head against the tile in a frantic attempt to rid herself of the pain. Her body began to shed like a shell being ripped from her body as flakes of color peeled off, revealing a black coat underneath. Luna was skilled at transformation, but this was unlike anything either princess had ever seen. Luna's face contorted as she began to scream in agony as the last part of the transformation began. Her wings, once pristine and regal, began to snap and break out of shape, taking the form of something like bat wings. After it was all over, the towering black alicorn slowly rose up, panting as he examined her hose. She began to laugh maniacally as he flaunted her newfound power, shooting random sparks of lightning in different directions. Celestia uncovered her ears and wiped away tears from her eyes as she turned to face Twilight. And thus Nightmare Moon was created, she sniffed. Luna fell into a deep sleep as Nightmare took control over her. However, We could not allow Nightmare to wreak havoc on the question of Luna's power. So I waited for her outside the castle with the elements ready. When she came out, I quickly banished her to the moon, where she would be forced to live the duration of Luna's hibernation in exile. Twilight closed her mouth, which had fallen in astonishment, as he took a message into a moment to interpret everything that had been told. If everything Celestia said was the truth, then everything that happened in the past 4,000 years had been planned to a certain extent, from Nightmare Moon all the way to how Twilight's life had turned out. Okay, what about the elements of chaos? Hello? Vic? Vic, care to explain? Hello? Alright, I get it. Twilight sighed, depressed for her own realization. My life was never my own to live, but if Equestria needs me to be who you want me to be, then I'll do it. Twilight took a prideful stance, despite tears in her eyes. Hello, Vic, what about the whole entire Celeste Luna being filled with tears of regret and anger and bitterness? Look, I know that the shadow creatures also convinced her, but all that was just them saying, hey, you know nobody likes you, right? Yes. You know nobody likes your knight, right? Yes. You know that in spite of everything that you you'll never be as loved as your sister, right? Yes. And you know that everybody doesn't appreciate your whole entire nightmare dream thing, right? Yes. Kill them. All right then. Okay, that's what happened. How do you explain that part? Um, Vic? I think you're starting to lose me. Vic? Look, this has been a great ride throughout this whole entire story. Do not falter in these last 2 chapters. Celestia gave her a pitiful look. I'm so sorry, Twilight. I tried to give you the life you deserved. Not everything was planned by me. The friendships you forged, the good times you had, they all came from you. Besides, you remembered the day she found out about Twilight's destiny. But fate chose you. There's only so much I could leave to chance for you. Twilight looked up at Rarity. Up the cliff, back to where he had fallen from. Then what about Rarity? I understand why I had to come, but why did you let her come with me? That, Twilight, is a different story. I had to make sure she would be ready. Ready? Twilight asked. Ready for what? To raise you once you are reborn. Raise me? What about my parents? Can't they do it? Are they not good enough for you? She sneered. Celestia winced at the onslaught of questions. Because, Twilight, it didn't work so well for Luna and I when we became alicorns. Celestia once again used her magic to show Twilight her and her sister when they were young alicorn fillies. Light Tane, a unicorn with a dark gray mane, walked into view, slipping the 2 fillies into each arm. This was our father. He was a powerful conjurer in his time. In fact, many ponies believed he would be the element of magic, at least until Luna and I were born. The unicorn looked down to the 2 fillies, but instead of being happy, he looked down at them with contempt and jealousy. He envied our power. Every pony used to believe he would have it, but the day we stole his dream away from him, something inside of him snapped. No pony could have seen it coming. He tried to take control of the elements of chaos, but they rejected him. Wait a minute. Oh, no. Don't you dare, Vic! The powers of the elements of chaos tortured his mind and body. Oh, I can see where this is going. Even though he was able to take away a lot of Luna's power, the ritual transformed him, warping him into a twisted beast. Oh, sweet baby Celestia, you can't really explain. Wait, you can't seriously mean that? Hi, Twilight. Welcome to the group of, ponies who usually say exactly what I'm thinking right at this moment. Twilight interrupted as he recognized who Celestia was hinting at. Yes, Twilight, Celestia continued. My father died that day. But what emerged from his death was Discord, a psychotic being with terrible power. If you'll excuse me a sec. Of all the stupid, twist you could have come up with. You know, guys, I was really enjoying this fic until this twist. His first goal was to claim the rest of Luna's power, as well as kill me so that no pony could challenge his power. But our mother was able to rescue us during the transformation and take us far away from Everfree City. In his desperation, he created a blizzard that swept over almost all of Equestria in the hopes of freezing us to death. I believe this is where the history you know begins. Luna and I were born at the same time, so before they passed, the prince and princess appointed a unicorn castle to raise the sun and moon, as told in your heartwarming Eve story. But since they were gone, and Luna and I were merely fillies at the time, this also meant that there was no pony to challenge Discord in his rise to power. He sent the creatures called Wendigos off to find us and kill us. But our mother, Clover, hid us well in the caves beneath Canterlot. You see, Twilight, your heartwarming story is really the story of how Everfree fell, and Canterlot rose to be the new capital, only mistranslated and misinterpreted from over 4,000 years of telling and retelling. You guys know that Robot Chicken sketch from when Darth Vader goes, "Luke, I am your father." "No, that's not possible." "And Leia is your sister." "That seems highly improbable." And then it immediately cuts to Luke and Darth Vader having a smoke break and drinking coffee, and Darth Vader proceeds to explain every weird plot point from the Star Wars franchise, to the point where Luke just goes, "You know what, if you're not taking this seriously, I'm out," and he walks off the stage. That's what I feel like Twilight's doing right now. Twilight is sitting back, having a cup of tea, listening to Celestia explain all these little twists and turns of the history. And I think she's just one last twist away from going, "Look, if you're not taking this seriously, I'm out." On the other hand, I will give it this. This is explaining the things that happened after the fic came into being, and explaining the important things like the unification of the three tribes, the backstory, the princesses, and how it all connects. Way better than Luffy's Adventures in Equestria any day of the week. At least it's trying. I can still probably poke a whole lot of holes in this plot if you give me a few seconds to rewrite Twilight's dialogue, but at least it's trying. It deserves a golf clap for that. Golf clap! Celestia snapped out of reverie and turned her attention to Twilight. Hopeful that she would have shown her enough to convince her of her reasoning. Unfortunately, Twilight was fuming. "So you think my parents would go crazy and try to rule Equestria with my power?" Twilight spat. "Twilight, I love you." I know, normally this is Rainbow Dash and Applejack's job, but since they're not here right now, I have to take over pointing out the plot holes. "I trust your mother and father with my life, but for Equestria that isn't good enough. They need a pony they can trust, one like an element of harmony, who has risen above the call of duty and made sacrifices no pony else could have done. Since the world does not fully trust Luna since Nightmare Moon incident, Verity is my best choice." It was a sound reasoning, but one that left a bitter taste in her mouth. See, down Celestia or Luna would have reacted any differently. Somebody told them their father would do what he told. Suddenly the hue of the world became a little darker, as all the faces surrounded them faded back into nothingness. Celestia looked around with a worried look on her face. "Twilight, our time is almost up. You've used up almost all your power. You must return to your own time and speak with—" Twilight held up a hope to stop Celestia and thought, "I'm sorry, Celestia. I understand how much work you put into this and how difficult it must have been, but I can't just go back." She stated gently. "But Twilight, there is no other way." "I'm sorry, Celestia, but I'm not going to abandon everybody again." Twilight looked down at the picture, then up to the sky, picturing the friends over faces. "They all need me now more than ever. I know we can't be certain what happens to the timelines when we jump from one to another, but the book theorized that they just branch off and rather than just cease to exist. I can't just go and create another world because this one's messed up. I can't forsake my friends like that. I caused all this, and I need to be there to fix it, or deal with the consequences of my actions. Celestia felt helpless as Twilight explained her reasoning to her. Twilight's words were definite. There was no sign of fear or reservation in the way she spoke. For the first time in almost 4,000 years, Celestia was speechless. But the sun! Celestia weakly muttered. Twilight gave Celestia a confident and reassuring smile as her horn started to glow. There are many things I learned in my years of studying under you, but there were many things I found out on my own. Twilight closed her eyes and began to focus their energy in front of her, creating a small spark of energy. Celestia's eyes lit up and saw what Twilight created. The energy was overpowering and familiar, despite how short-lived it was. Celestia looked back up into Twilight's eyes before she noticed he was sweating and panting and exhausted. Celestia? Princess Celestia, I need you to trust me on this. She said as she struggled to keep herself upright. Celestia gave her a nod, and the rest of the light faded around into pitch black. It was the only two unicorns standing left in the void. I trust you, Twilight. If this is your decision, then please allow me to bestow you one last gift. Twilight nodded as she felt her eyelids grow heavily. Celestia reached in and embraced Twilight with all her might. The action surprised her, but before she could react, Celestia leaned in and whispered to her, "This is goodbye, Twilight. Please tell Luna I love her." "Wait! Princess!" Twilight shouted, before Celestia's body burst into a shower of sparks and energy. The brilliant display of light swirled around Twilight in one massive flurry before flowing into her body from all directions. Just as quickly as it began, the light faded. Tears dripped from her eyes, but Twilight felt no sadness. Even though her mentor and teacher were gone forever, she was happy. She could feel the warmth of Celestia flowing in her. The world began to come back into focus as its normal hue, as Twilight could feel herself suspended in the air. She could feel the air around her begin to circulate as the world began to move again, slowly but gradually, gaining speed until it returned to normal. The energy around her quickly disappeared in a flash as she gently began to descend into the snow, and her body returned to its normal state. She felt lightheaded, stumbling around as beads of sweat dripped from her forehead despite the cold. The first thing she thought about as she regained her senses was her sister. She rushed over to Nova's side, lifting her head up and letting it rest on her lap as she stroked her mane lovingly. Twilight found it hard to take that this young mare had no other fate than death at such a young age. She deserved better than this. Skidoo sighed in relief as Twilight left to go tend to the mare, a moment of relief that was short-lived as he remembered the pain she was in. Skidoo coughed up blood as he waited for the colt to finish her off. "It's not fair," she thought. Suddenly, Rainbow Dash bolted down from the sky to the trio, previously alerted by the explosion of magic she saw earlier. She instantly dashed to the orange Pegasus, reaching down to hold her, but stopping short as she realized she could do more damage. "Skidoo!" Dash cried, tears relentlessly steaming down her cheek. "What did you do?" "I wanted somebody to hurt as much as I did. I was so angry." "I repeat my earlier statement from before." "Really? Skidoo!" "After everything we've been through, after everything that this story has done, our last villain, our last bad character, is freaking Skidoo! Skidoo! What?" Des held her hose up to the merciless sister. "Shh. It's all my fault. I never showed you the attention you deserved. I was too cocky, too proud. I'm so sorry." "Oh, am I glad Season 3 kind of kicked that out of the water." "No, Dash. It was all my fault. I never spoke up. No, don't think that way. Just focus on staying awake." Rainbow Dash turned her head as she pushed a button on a headset to stick it to her ear. "This is former Captain Rainbow Dash, requesting immediate medvac." There's a moment of static before her voice responded. "Roger, Rainbow Dash. What's your location?" "I'm somewhere near the Free Forest, near the ruins. Make an overhead pass. I'll pop flares." "I have a copy. We'll send it to you right away. ETA 2 mics." Dash pulled out a flare from a leg holster and struck the flint, creating a bright flash of red sparks. She immediately tossed the flare aside as he turned back to the now quivering mare beside her. "Stay with me, Scoots. You're gonna be okay." "Former?" Skidoo rumbled. You said former captain. What did you mean? I quit the Wonderbolts, Dad sputtered. I was going to take you home with me before you stormed off. Skula smiled. You didn't have to do that. Rainbow Dash shook her head. The Wonderbolts are nowhere near as important over it as you. I'll get over it. I would never get over losing you. Excuse me again? Why? Just why? You could have done any other different plot than this. Wait. Skulu felt tears of joy well up in her eyes, but they quickly turned to tears of pain as she coughed up more blood. I'm sorry. She couldn't get affairs her sentence as her eyelids dropped and her breathing stopped. No, no, no! Rainbow Dash screamed as he began performing CPR on Scootaloo. Please, stay with me! Don't you dare! Dash wailed, desperately trying to suppress the tears in her eyes. A demon Pegasi came fluttering around the sky, lowering the stretchers as they could as they roughed to the downed mares. They quickly pushed Dash to the side, trying to prevent her from rushing in and interfering with their work. It took 2 medics to fully restrain her, while another 2 tended to Scootaloo. They quickly placed a neck brace on her before pulling out a portable defibrillator. A what? A portable defibrillator. A what? A portable defibrillator. It better be made out of clouds. Rainbow Dash continued to watch in horror as the machine gave off its unmistakable high-pitched squeak to signify it's charging up. Clear! The paramedic called out as he placed the pads on the mare's chest, then pushed a button. Scootaloo's body violently convulsed as the surge of voltage coursed through her body, but still she remained lifeless. Dash struggled against her restrainers, reaching out desperately for Scootaloo, now trying to hold back her tears. Clear! The scene was utter chaos as they continued to try to revive her, while Rainbow Dash screamed and fought in agony. One of her medics came over to Twilight and Nova to tend to them. No doubt on his face when he came down to check for her pulse. Only a few seconds passed before he removed his hat and began to pronounce Nova, offering the mare a moment's silence, before turning to offer Twilight some assistance. She slowly waved her hope to decline as he returned to hold her sister. All of Twilight's friends were gathered around, all dressed in black as they waited for the procession to begin. Twilight rushed over to her mother and father as they each held each other once again. Her brother and his wife soon joined in a hug. Even though their family had returned to the way it was before, they knew their family could never be whole again. Princess Luna came in and offered Twilight's condolences before heading up to the altar. She gave the conductor a brief nod, and he held his host set up to conduct. An orchestra began to play a somber tune as the pallbearers carried in 2 coffins. Every pony in their attendance hung their heads low as they brought the coffins to their finally resting place. Ladies and gentlemen, Luna began, it is with great sadness that we are gathered here today to commend these 2 to the mercy of the ancients. As Luna talked, Rainbow Dash held a handkerchief up to her eyes to stop the tears. She felt incredibly guilty for everything that had happened. I'm feeling incredibly pissed off. Twilight quickly placed a hug on her distraught friend's shoulder. It's okay, Rainbow Dash. It wasn't your fault. There was nothing you could do. After Luna had finished speaking, each of Twilight's family went up and said a few words for Nova. One by one, they told stories of Nova's life through their torrents of tears and sob. Each story was so incredibly like Twilight's. Endless curiosity and incredible talent. It almost seemed like she was part of her own funeral. Finally, Cadance finished her eulogy, only for Twilight to speak. Twilight found her way up to the pedestal and looked around at the mourning faces before she cleared her throat. I never knew Nova like I should have, she began. My family tells me she was just like me. Always curious, always thirsty for knowledge. They said I would have really loved her, and I did. The little time I had with her, she grew on me. She became every bit important to me as my own friend. In truth, I never was supposed to have met her, but she'll always hold a place in my heart. One that will shine forever like the star she loved to observe. She is, and will always be, my little sister. Twilight stepped down from the altar and leaned over to the casket, giving Anoa a kiss on her forehead before returning to her place between family and friends. First, I leaned closer to Twilight. Thank you for letting me do this, she whispered before getting up to go talk to the altar. Angel was more than a friend to me, she began. Rainbow Dash turned to her right as she felt a nudge from the orange Pegasus who stood beside her. Her body was heavily bandaged up, and her arm was in a cast. She was chained up in cuffs, the two royal guards watching her every move. "Can I say a few words? I will apologize for what I did," she asked. Lady Diaz looked back to the guards, nodding before turning to Twilight and her family. "I know it isn't my place to ask, but could Skulu say a few words?" Twilight smiled. She gave Rainbow Dash a quick nod. "Of course." Skulu then went up to the altar, looked around, and said, "The author freaking flipped me off in this fic," and then proceeded to walk back down. Every pony gathered at the Golden Oaks Library, back of Ponyville, waiting for Twilight to arrive. Every pony from Twilight's parents, Princess Luna, and all her friends were there to hear what Twilight had to say. But every pony had expected to be the final farewells. There was tension in the air, some of it from fear, some from stress. No pony really knew what to expect if Twilight was to go back into the past. Either they would all cease to exist, or they would continue on and Twilight would be gone once again. Most worried of all was Rarity. After the funeral, she decided she wasn't going to go back with Twilight, but she wasn't quite sure how to break the news. Sweet Belle had already endured so much on her own. The thought of leaving her alone again was too much for Rarity to take. Nothing could truly undo the pain Sweet Belle had already gone through. Ever since they reunited, Sweet Belle hadn't left Rarity's side. She practically groveled for Rarity to stay once she learned of Twilight's plan to return back to their own time. However, it didn't take much to convince her that it was the right choice.
"I forgive you, Rarity," Sweet Belle cried. "I'm so sorry for all the bad things I've done. I never meant the things I said. Just to leave me alone again."
Rarity held her sister tightly, resting her cheek against her soft flowing mane. "You don't have to be alone any more, darling," she whispered. "I'll never leave you alone again." Princess Luna patiently waited. She hadn't said a word since the funeral. Since Twilight pulled her aside and told her her encounter with Celestia, she desperately struggled to remain her stoic expression. But every pony noticed anyway. Twilight's words were played over and over in her mind. Even though she was happy, that Twilight was now one with Celestia. Luna couldn't help but feel distraught she would never see her sister again. Not in her magical state that she would sometimes use to get away from it all. Not even in the afterlife, where she was joined to previous voters of the elements, when her time would come. Still, Twilight hadn't told her everything about the encounter. She never told her about her plan, nor did she even tell her why Celestia did what she did. All she asked was that Princess Luna trust her. So there, Princess Luna sat in the middle of Twilight's library, patiently waiting for Twilight to return. She said that she had some things to take care of, for every pony to wait for her in the library. Not a single word was spoken for the rest of the time they spent waiting, out of respect or for grief. Only muffled sounds of sobbing and winds howling were audible. He was talking to everyone when there came a knock on the door. Spike quickly rushed over and opened up the door, revealing the lavender unicorn of the hour. All eyes were transfixed on Twilight with some elation, and others with confusion. Twilight walked in, all 6 of the gems made of the elements of harmony, circling around her as she made her way back to the room. She didn't speak a word. She hadn't spoken to any pony since the funeral. Save for a few words she said to Princess Luna, no pony really knew what to expect. Twilight situated herself in front of the reading desk, and waiting for everyone to get situated where they could see and hear her. Once the room was still, Twilight took a moment to clear her throat. "Ahem! I'm not going back to my own time," she began. And that is where the fic stopped. Around 2012, the author had finished the story. He posted out the final 2 chapters and left it complete. However, the author chose to go back and rewrite the story in his own image. However, he stopped right here before the final chapter could be released. The following is my idea of what would happen before if the story had finished and what I think happened in the final chapter. After Twilight tells them that she is not going back to her own time, she points out that she has already theorized what happens with time travel, that there will be 2 separate timelines, one where she will exist, and the other one where she could exist in the past. Using the elements to basically reborn her, she creates an alternate self, her own Alicorn state, and her previous version, by also wielding the elements of chaos, using her own magical theories on the process. She then sends that little one back in time so that way they can make sure that she doesn't reset. However, that Twilight has the memories of everything that has gone on since that moment. It proceeds to help Celestia with the transferring of the sun, proceeds to help fix everything's relationship, and proceeds to fix everybody as well as he could. And that's my theory. And now onto the review. This fic was great until the last two chapters. And I mean, it was pretty dang good until those last two moments when the story began to crumble. Let's go over to bad. I think this story really began to crumble once Scootaloo was revealed as the bad guy at the end. I mean, after everything we've been through, all the characterization, all the changes, and how the fic really kept to a theme of lost time, of how everybody had lost something when spent years apart, and how everybody changed when you took out two ponies from that timeline, and two ponies didn't have a chance to spend 15 years from each other, how much they could drift apart and change, how due to Rainbow Dash's negligence for all the lost time she spent away from Scootaloo, really messed Scootaloo up. How bad lost time affected Sweet Belle and Apple. Okay, I'll get to Apple in a bit. And how much Luna felt down about her lost time with Celestia, meaning that she could never really unite with her. How much lost time caused Celestia to drift apart from humanity. With all of that in mind, we had Scootaloo as the villain at the end? And Scootaloo's reasoning didn't even make sense. I am angry at Rainbow Dash and Rarity for doing this to me. But wait, wasn't it technically just Sweetie Belle? Yes, and I'm going to have Sweetie Belle be hurt most of all. How? Simple. I'm going to have Pinkie Pie hurt you. How? By slapping me. By slapping you. How? I don't know. Just trust me on this, okay? When it got to that point, that was when everything crumbled. I mean, why couldn't the villain be, oh, I don't know, some ancient equestrian Eldritch horror, some type of ethereal being, some temporal monster or something, or some, oh, I don't know, unicorn with a broken horn, or some pony that's got a nightmare. Why couldn't it be that? Why did it have to be just plain Jane normal Scootaloo? What's worse is that the events leading up to Nova's death kind of had a little snag. This is what happens when you forget about the powers. Scootaloo charges at Nova, pushes her off a cliff. Twilight's hanging from there. Oh god, it was foreshadowed, wasn't it? Yep, it was foreshadowed in an earlier chapter about the whole entire falling off the ledge thing. Oh god. However, why didn't Twilight just use a telekinetic bubble around them? I mean, she couldn't do it herself, but she could wrap a telekinetic bubble around them. Why didn't she just use a shield spell to block Scootaloo's attack? I'm going to charge at you! Boink! I'm going to charge at you again! Boink! Oh, shield spell! That's right. Okay, so maybe it's because Twilight lost most of her power, but she seemed to be getting back. How far along was she in her recovery state? The fic didn't even say that. It just said, oh, Twilight was walking around. They didn't even say Twilight was winking at that point. And, again, why didn't Scootaloo glide while she was tackling? Oh, wait, that's right, because Nova apparently grabbed a hold of her. Okay. Again, I feel like this was only set up to cause that drama. Drama that doesn't really make sense. Okay, so Twilight didn't visit her parents or big brother while in Canterlot? And they didn't point out to her that, hey, Nova's your sister. And Nova didn't find this out. Why? I mean, what? Shining Armor, her parents, Cadance, nobody has to let this slip. What did her parents do? Have Nova in secret in the case beneath Canterlot before anybody could tell? And then Celestia's explanation. What a load of freaking plot holes this was! What? Okay, so apparently she got reborn after the whole entire use of the elements, becoming an Alcorn. And then her father goes batshit insane and becomes Discord? Just because he was jealous? And her adopted mother was Clover the Clever? Awfully young mother. What? Did she have the twin? What? Did they. What? Were they given to her when she was freaking 14 or something? And Discord created the Blizzard? What? What? That's not Discord. Discord would create reality bending or mess up the planet. You would create a Blizzard just to go after Celestia Luna. And he's set to win the goes? What? And, oh yeah, suddenly Celestia can create Sonic Rainbooms. Don't know how that happened, but let's just go with it. And she caused the accident? Oh, great. Thanks a lot, Vic. You really, really took away all the meaning of death and good feelings that I had throughout the whole entire story with just that one line. And Celestia did this just so that way she could make sure Twilight would accept the responsibility? It's Twilight! If it means saving lives, yeah, she would accept it. She's kind of a hero character. That's what they do best. Hell, if she told Twilight that the sun was going to go away, Twilight probably could have said, no, I'm going to find a way to save you. Give me about 5 minutes. And a lot of caffeine. What? You mean Celestia didn't trust her steward enough to tell her this? What the ever-loving hell? And Rainbow Dash didn't think to look for Scootaloo, and Scootaloo didn't stick around long enough, and what? It really, they threw out Scootaloo because she was an accomplice? What the hell? All these things just threw out forced drama and really, really took down the bits of the story. And of course, of all this talk of siblinghood and sisters and finding lost time that really, really made up the bulk of the story, the fact that Apple Bloom and Applejack got basically ditched. Oh, no, not just ditched. They got basically shafted. Really hurts the fic. As this story was apparently also about the CMC, Apple Bloom is left out? We don't get to see Sleepbell interacting with Apple Bloom and saying what she was doing with her. We don't see Scootaloo renting out her raids on Apple Bloom. We don't see the two interact. Come on! What, no Apple Bloom and Scootaloo moments? Why? We could have had a lot of scenes where they bonded. We could have had a lot of moments where they were talking to one another. But instead, we got Diddly Squat? What type of story is that? We could have done so much more. But instead, Applejack got shafted because, well, that's what some fics like to do with her. On the other side of things, on the much more positive side, this fic was done well. While there were some grammatical errors, everything else was pretty good. The pacing and all that worked really well to the story's benefit. The sibling moments were really sweet, and I do love the last few moments with Nova. Everything was written really done well, and I also love the fact that it showed what effects losing two important ponies in the world could have on the entire planet. I also love the bonds between Verity and Sleepbell. And I loved how Rainbow Dash acted, and I also love how some of the plot twists, although I disagree with some of them, worked really well in the story's favor and hit us hard. This story was really well done, and I love it. They, well, that was one down. Now, next time, we present to you another incomplete fic. Take it, Fluttershy.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. The cast down is my real test. The train down is my cause.
Next time, Hold and Shy. See you then.